Mbadde kubuuza buno omuntu mbukube mu ngeri ki?
78 Kampala eri +256 musanvu no kyenda mu emu.
Isma mute.
Obagenda ku website yaabwe www.cityholidaycover.com.
KK, only muted. Only live now, Facebook and YouTube. KK, only muted. KK, only muted. KK, only muted. Tawulira. Unmute.
Badde muted kubanga Isma akubi yateeka kikakasa ngenze mu kwogera naye eri neva kubanga bayagala nkozese phone for the communication on here. Then njoke nkozese video nkozese ya laptop, then sound nkozese yes. And he had called, so but this is now option.
I'm fine, so I'll just mute that and then Ninze bulinzi Isma ampe gundi ampe opening music and then we get talking inshallah. Hello Isma, uri bulungi? So agala kubisawo batambuze ndaba omusajja ali Kampala Gaddafi akedde olukeera ya rabbi.
Gaddafi ali Kampala.
Gaddafi ali Kampala ku ssaawa 5 ez'ekiro zino zamaze okubanga astayinze up making sure nti program agifuna ajota buli.
Gaddafi olina tete.
There was the yari muted, we couldn't hear him. Isma sebo gugwe ninze launching, then we get moving.
Gadmaya uliwa.
Echo evaluda wanga mpulira mu echo ngate my audio is blocked off. Right, abooluganda bonna abakedde, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To be launched officially and get us rolling. Okay. Yeah, a very interesting conversation tonight, inshallah. Developments actually since the broadcast of this particular interview, raises a lot of questions. Second. I'm trying to... Laptop teri iko sheikh ndiko simu kokka kati simu je nkozesa then never nti ye feeding towards the... Would that help? Oh yeah, actually that helps. I think that gets rid of the echo. Yeah, kibadde wange sebo badde mutuufu. Isma, are we fine to start?
Yes, we are fine, sir.
Okay, ninze sig tune seven, then we'll go. Echo ngeri chale meddemu. Isimo jukiro suleyo ka link eri awabulijjo. Isma, are you there? Abantu balinze dakika 5 bannange. Would rather have something started.
Seka tutandike.
Ninze sig tune sebo sinagiwulira.
Kweri.
I have to talk around. Sigiwulira.
Keke ochayina
Wanji?
echo.
Eko simanji eri mu kuva ene wange namaze
And studio mute is whatever you video agenda, but you just muted it. So you disconnect it. That's why you're in echo. Disconnect audio.
Video je mutings.
Koyogerera kati.
Yes. Anti ne audio je nkozesa kubanga Isma agamba audio ya laptop, which is the main one, Joraba, is not good.
Audio laptop je muting.
Anti
Jobo disconnecting audio.
Eri disconnect. Anti
you just muted it. Disconnect it.
How will I be able to hear now? Because I need to be able to have the feedback.
Anti yogerera ku simu straight.
Simu je njogerera ko yes. Ne anti kati atenga audio. I need to be hearing. Oh, okay, that's fine. I'll do that. Let's take it the jogam. I would need to have. I would need to hear.
You're good now.
Huh? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, ladies and gentlemen. On Come, Let's Talk with me, Kasim Kayira. Here live on 75W Radio, as well as live and streaming live on Zoom and YouTube via Umma Connected. Thank you very much. Today we are talking about mixed marriages or mixed relationships and what actually this has meant for you as a person. Of course, the starting point for this particular conversation or discussion relates with a big interview that was watched by more than 11 million people last night in the United Kingdom, broadcast here first, but it was an interview done with Oprah Winfrey by the two Sussexes, that is Prince Harry and Meghan. And in this particular interview, I think there's more than one issue that came up, but two issues actually stood out in this particular interview. The first one being the issue of race, that when they were married, this was almost a black woman getting into the royal family, and that was raising particular issues within royal circles. There had been particular concerns that led some of the high royals in the royal family to make particular statements that didn't really augur well. That is relating to, for example, what would be the color or the skin color of the child who would be the product of Harry and Meghan once they were married. And this was even before the marriage. And then the issue of mental health, because Meghan speaks about the fact that she realized and felt that she was actually undergoing a lot of torture. And through this torture, her mental health was actually put at stake or threatened, and she felt suicidal even at some point. Now, to imagine that the Prince's Trust or the royal family runs a charity that deals with mental health issues, the fact that, well, the question being raised was if they could not deal with one of their own, how can they then go out? It's a charity that actually raises or gets £900,000 every year to go and help with mental health issues. And they have helped in those particular areas. But in this particular instance, it became clear that Meghan did not feel supported as she was supposed to have been supported. I think we'll get to watch a little bit of these clips just to get a feel, and that will lead us into a particular conversation, because I wanted us, as we do normally on Come Let's Talk with me, Kasim Kayira, is try to customize, bring these issues down to our own realities, because where we come from, there are histories. We've been married, for example. I was married to a woman who is not from my particular tribe that had particular issues, and those are probably issues that will touch it. But then you might find that even within yourself, you will actually start finding those particular issues coming up. And it would be interesting, because this is our global community conversation where we talk about nearly everything. The only difference is we do it decently. So whether it's a difficult subject, we'll still talk about it, but we do it within the confines of, within the elements of decency. And that's the conversation I'd like to have. Many people here, or several people, many of you who are already logged on, are people who have been married to probably, increasingly now you get people getting married to, say, white men marrying black women, white women marrying black men. and how that plays up, because in public, sometimes they might just play to the gallery and all you see are the beautiful things that come in, but deep inside something else is going on. And that is really important for us to, have a discussion around that. So I wanted us to take out this discussion away from, we start with Harry and Meghan, paint that picture, but then delve it out, because probably they are a public figure and therefore the discussion, the conversation is really going so high as it is. But quite often you'll find that within our own families where we come from, there are those issues. There are even issues that do not have to be white and black. Even black on black, you'll find realities. You're marrying from the north of the country where there are particular, attitudes towards those people. Things like Bariabana, Baba Soka, Firstborn, these are things, Bajama. There are all these complexities that come into the picture. There is marrying across borders where you're going to marry Rwandese or Rwandese marrying a Ugandan. In countries like Rwanda, where you even be imagining that people, are the same, they are speaking the same language, there were issues. For example, if a person went and married a Hutu woman, for example, when they are Tutsi, it was, like taboo, deep down. People might not necessarily bring it in public. Just like the reverse is true, like a Hutu man marrying a Tutsi woman, that would have issues. These are issues that cut across our particular communities. And I would like us now to take this discussion deeper. Could we be that we're actually putting a lot of blame on the royal family, probably because they are the public figure that they are? But could there be something else, something deeper, that within our own selves, there is that bit that needs to be addressed? How do we feel? There are probably people here, spinsters, who are getting ready to get married, and very soon the challenge will come. We have moved to these countries as first generation immigrants, but then our children are growing up here. Likelihood is they will start crossing the barriers and therefore start getting married, to say, leave alone even whites, but also, for example, Nigerians have really crossed into our territory. Nigerian men are marrying off our daughters, many of our girls, who now, because of the mindset that has been set up partly by their own parents, who say, Uganda, you always hear these complaints about Ugandan men. Is that creating a particular situation that is actually pushing our girls away from, marrying from these particular communities? While there's nothing wrong where there's love, there are these issues that you cannot really negate. When I posted this particular message on Facebook, one lady came up and said, she's having a serious problem. She's Muganda, but she's having serious problems because she's in love with a Somali man and the family is not allowing that to happen. So we've had these incidents, and these are the stories that I'd like us to have a conversation about. Did you have to stand your ground and say, I love my wife and therefore let whatever happens, happen? This is the conversation that I'd like us to have, but probably just to get us really refreshed, and just in case you didn't get to watch this particular interview, let's just play a clip, Isma, please, regarding just this, just to give you an idea. Plus also how the media covered this, because there are serious racist tendencies within British media. It is wrong to say British media is racist, no, but there are racist tendencies. And I think these are the things that need to be addressed. But probably just to get us thinking, as usual, let's just have a clip of this particular interview with Oprah Winfrey and hear the very area that has caused the friction that we are discussing.
From her interview last night with Prince Harry and Meghan. It's a doozy. If you missed any of these new clips, you can watch all of them right now on CBS This Morning's Twitter and YouTube accounts. We'll actually watch it starting at 9 o'clock Eastern. So, Oprah, in this unaired excerpt, Meghan and Harry discuss feeling not supported by the royal family from attacks in the UK tabloids. And they say the attacks on them were different. Remember this one? Let's listen.
Isma, I think the second clip
You've
actually
had these conversations with your family members. They know why you left. So has anybody said, I'm sorry you had to make that move, or I'm sorry you felt that you had to do that because you felt we were not supporting you?
No, sadly not. The feeling is that this was our decision, therefore the consequences are on us. And despite 3 years of asking for help and seeing or visualizing how this might end, it was, I don't know, it's been really hard, because I am part of the system with them. I always have been. But I guess there is, I'm very aware of this, that my brother can't leave that system, but I have.
Does your brother want to leave the system?
I don't know, I can't speak for him. But with that relationship and that control and the fear by the UK tabloids, it's a toxic environment. But I will always be there for him. I will always be there for my family. And as I said, I've tried to help them to see what has happened.
Do they think it's a toxic environment, or do you all just think it's a toxic environment because you're now out of it? If we were to have an interview with them or a conversation with them, does your father think it's a toxic environment or relationship?
I think he's had to make peace with it.
And why couldn't you make peace with it? I'll ask that of both of you.
Because this was different, you know.
It's different because of the race?
And social media.
And social media. Oh, yes.
Right?
Different time. Different time.
That didn't exist. And so it was like the wild, wild west. It was spread like wildfire. Plus, my being American, it translated in a different way across the pond. So you had a noise level that was very different. But if they can't see that it's different.
So you felt bullied on an international level?
Look, I think the volume of what was coming in and the interest was greater because of social media, because of the fact that I was not just British, and that unfortunately, if members of his family say, well, this is what's happened to all of us, or if his, you know, if they can compare what the experience that I went through was similar to what has been shared with us. Kate was called Waity Katie, waiting to marry William. While I imagine that was really hard, and I can't picture what that felt like. This is not the same. And if a member of his family will comfortably say, we've all had to deal with things that are rude and racist are not the same. And equally, you've also had a press team that goes on the record to defend you, especially when they know something's not true. And that didn't happen for us.
You mentioned earlier, Harry, that you were hurt by the fact that there's been no acknowledgement on the part of your family that this was different because of race. Do you think there ever will be? And would that make a difference to you?
Do you want to get into property, but you're thinking, hey, I've got no cash for
Sorry
deposit
about
pots.
that YouTube clip. The adverts always come in, but I think we should be able to continue.
It would make a huge difference. You know, as I said, there's a lot of people that have seen it for what it was.
Yeah.
A lot of people. Like, it's talked about across the world. Yet the very people that don't want to see it or can't see it choose not to see it.
Boy, Oprah, when Meghan said rude and racist are not the same, I thought that was a very powerful statement. And I'm curious about your reaction too. Also. Yeah, your reaction when you saw that. And the other thing that I'm hearing already chatter bubbling up is, if these two want privacy, why are they sitting down with the queen of American television? I think there's a difference between privacy and intrusion. Could you talk about that from their point of view and what you thought when she said rude and racist?
Well, I thought that was really very powerful, and I also, you know, thought that she was gracious when speaking about what happened with Kate Middleton in terms of, you know, Waity Katie. They are not the same, and I think what Anthony said earlier, I don't think the American public understands. We attempted to, but weren't really able to show you what the barrage of daily vitriol and negativity on a on a consistent basis does to your personal psyche. I mean, it wasn't just like a couple of stories. It's a business, and she's a commodity and an asset to that business. And so what the point that they made in the interview that we weren't able to show is that, yes, they want privacy, but They understand that they are public figures, and the privacy is not to be intruded upon. The same thing everybody else in the world wants, and that there is a difference between privacy and intrusion and being able to have boundaries. Yes, you want privacy. You don't want helicopters and people hiding in the bushes, filming your baby outside playing. And I think that when people say, oh, they're talking now and they wanted privacy, they don't understand that there is a difference between being a public figure who wants to have some boundaries and not to be consistently intruded upon versus being private.
And also please tell the truth. I've heard one example of, okay, I'll share one photo with you, say on Instagram, doesn't mean I want you to have the whole roll. And it was a nonstop barrage of negative press that was not true.
Hey, Oprah, I'm curious. I mean, there were so many bombshells in this interview. I mean, it seemed like one after another. Was there anyone that especially surprised you?
I think the skin tone, the discussions about what color, what Archie's skin tone would be, that surprised me. What also surprised me was, and that's why I clarified, were you just feeling badly? Were you feeling sad? Or were there actual suicidal ideation thoughts of harming yourself? That also really surprised me.
Oprah, I just want to clarify one.
It surprised me that Harry said he was
Isma,
trapped.
if you can stop there, please. I think that was the point that I wanted us to raise. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. If you've just joined us, this is Come, Let's Talk with me, Kasim Kayira, and we are live on 75W Radio as well as streaming live on both Zoom and YouTube via Umma Connect. And we are talking mixed marriages or intermarriages within, different communities. Both, whether it's the color divide or it's the tribal divide, things that actually, come to mind when we discuss this. And I can already see within the chat room, a very interesting debate or conversation is beginning to shape up. And these are the conversations that we would actually want to hear. You hear two main points that we've raised at the start. The issue, the point of the skin color of the child, which was clearly a racist remark by all standards. Of course, they left out to say who it was who had actually said it, but actually you leave it to the viewer's imagination, maybe to make up their minds about what they make of that. And then there's the mental health issue, which I think is an issue that can be covered on a different day. But the fact that you have a struggling family, you have a person that is showing that clearly there's something that ain't right. Instead of getting support, they almost seem to be driven down. And I think really this has led to the huge debate. 11 million people watched this particular interview last night on ITV, and then conversations have begun. Just latest news is one of the very people in the media who has been really against Meghan clearly is Piers Morgan, who I don't know what he thinks he is, but he's entitled to his views. Well, he made it clear that he actually didn't believe that Meghan did face the suicidal thoughts. And actually that has led to a barrage of complaints. And as a result, 41,000 complaints came up, and he's been forced to lose his position on the breakfast show, Good Morning show, while investigations are being carried out. Of course, now the outcome of the investigation will determine whether he crossed the line or not. But mental health organizations have come up strongly to accuse his particular statements, especially being inconsiderate. And again, I think it pushes the whole racism agenda to a front. But also importantly, Buckingham Palace has released a statement over the last few hours, and it is saying the whole family is saddened to learn the full extent of how challenging the last few years have been for Harry and Meghan. The issues raised, particularly that of race, are concerning. While some recollections may vary, they are taken very seriously and will be addressed by the family privately. Harry, Meghan, and Archie will always be much loved family members. And that is from the Buckingham Palace. Of course, making a statement because a lot of pressure is upon the family to probably, come up. And someone was thinking whether a rebuttal was necessary in this particular situation. But I think we should narrow this down. Probably as we have the conversation, it will be interesting just to hear your own takes on this. But the story is about us within intermarriages. We've had situations where, you know, you're going to get married, and it becomes an issue. But then in the modern Uganda, for example, there has been a lot of intermarriages. A very interesting case I had recently was a man from Western Uganda, Munyankole, who got married to a Karamajong, the product of that Bellissimo. It's really interesting. People are crossing those barriers. But have you been a part of that particular story? Did you face those particular challenges? What has the experience been for you? It would be very interesting to hear from you. Let's go straight to Namba Mona, who is on here. You were married to a white man. Namba, if you can get, please, unmuted, please. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa
Thank you
barakatuh.
very much for joining Come Let's Talk with me, Kasim Kayira. You are married to, yes, a white man, am I assuming?
Yeah, I'm married to a German,
yes,
a Dutchman. But sincerely speaking, what I would say to me, racism exists equally as tribalism exists in the whole world, not only with whites and blacks, but even blacks and blacks, even whites and whites.
Go there shortly. I wanted, first of all, to get your particular reaction looking at, I'm sure you've watched clips of this particular interview.
Yeah, I watched them.
This interview and Megan's particular position.
By the way, what was more stunning is someone asking, what color would the child be? As if anyone can predict color of a child when it's still in the womb. You know, some people, what I think, some people don't know that racism is just an inferiority complex in people who see life negatively. Whoever asks about one's race or attaches a particular thing on one's race is just a result of that person not loving himself enough. That's why he or she picks on others, because he's not contented.
So, and my question to you was, were you angry? Were you angry looking at this? Were you, how did you feel looking at it?
By the way, I wasn't surprised, because here in Germany, we live among whites. I live among whites. I live among Germans, and some of them are good, some of them are bad. But I cannot determine one's anger because of what other people have said. I feel sorry for them, because for someone who was pregnant by then, she is depressed at the same time. And you add on such a statement. It's like telling someone, are you going to give birth to a live child or a dead child?
Yes. So now to your particular own story. When you met your husband now, how did the family perceive that? What sort of reaction did you get, both from your family, but also from your husband's family?
Oh, my family, by the way, my family, for us, my father, my parents, we don't profile anyone. All my family, we are married to different people, because marriage is a sacred institution. You can't know who you are going to marry, but what you pray for is what you get. That is why sometimes I tell people, when you are asking God for someone to be with at the end of with you till the end of life, ask God for someone who will love you for who you are, what you are, and where you, that will not look at where you come from, but who you are as a person. Me?
Have you had a chance to go with him to Uganda? Have you been to Uganda with him?
My parents love him so much, by the way. Why?
Yeah, but there are these cultural barriers.
I'm not yet, no, there is cultural barrier, but me as myself, my husband, we have not yet gone to Uganda, but we are married.
Okay. No, but can you imagine a situation where, for example, I know your mom is late, but if your mom was there, your husband just comes and the next thing is hugging another, which is taboo.
They are my area sisters, they are married, and some of them are married to whites, but they were not refused. For us, our father told us, if you want to be married, even our mother, what matters is religion, one's character. That is all what is important.
Yeah, but Mona, what I was asking you can you imagine a situation where, for example, you went to Uganda, your mom is late, I know, but imagine a situation where your husband comes and just hugs Nazara, which for them is all right, but for us it is taboo. Would you worry about such, or would you have trained him?
You would have trained him. By the way, if you love someone, you have to be open to them. Teach them your culture, and then you learn theirs. Because marriage is learning each other. We grew up from different places. We have different customs, different cultures. You have to tell them the do's and don'ts.
Okay, so your situation probably might have been now?
Yeah, when you are in love with someone and you are going to be married, you are different cultures. You have to be open to each other. Teach them the do's and don'ts. And then
so in your particular relationship, has race never come up as an issue? Have you never gone, for example, to a supermarket and you see them, like people looking at you differently? Has race never really come up as an issue?
By the way, the race I found was between those people who are foreigners in this land and they are blacks. That is fun enough. A fellow black looking at you and say, for you come for you, people who come from Uganda. We know you as poor people. Then you told them, what makes you think like that? Then when for us, you people who come from these other countries, we see you as blacks. And those were Nigerians. Profiling a Ugandan, can you imagine?
Right. Okay, thank you very much.
That is fun. So what I say,
stay on, inshallah.
Racism really exists. But for me as myself, I've never been profiled by a white. Whereas I know it exists and people practice it. They practice it on others, but they don't know that even them, when they go in other places, it can be onto them.
All right. Thank you very much, Mona. I'm just leaving you so that I can bring in more people into the conversation. Thank you very much for sharing your experience. I would like to go to Muzamir JJ, please. Muzamir JJ, are you there? If you can unmute Muzamir, please. Yeah, I thought I saw him. Muzamir JJ. Muzamir JJ, I think I saw. Are you unmuted?
Yes, please. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Welcome to Come Let's Talk with me, Kasim Kayira. How are you?
I'm very fine, alhamdulillah. Thank you. How are you guys?
Alhamdulillah. I know you are married to a white woman. So just got a white man married to a black woman, and you're married to a white woman. First of all, your reactions to the Harry Meghan interview. Did you watch it?
Yes, I did watch it yesterday, and I was amazed, really. It was so surprising to see. I thought those guys are really protected and they had a better future and a better life, but I was so surprised to hear what I heard.
Right.
Yeah.
Were you surprised or angry?
Surprised and angry, because the other bit of where I'm angry is I look at my children and I think, what's the future for them? Right. Where are we heading? If somebody's portrayed at early stage, what if these kids come out and then what is the life for him tomorrow? So that's the question I have every single day. What is he going to live? What is he going, if at all these videos are played back to him in the future, and then he hears that somebody within the family said that, even you as a person, you would ask yourself a question: do you really belong?
Right. Yeah. And remember, just to remind people who are following us on Facebook, you can just send us a message or come straight into the chat room on Zoom, and we continue this particular conversation. Muzamir, your particular experience now when you met your wife, how did you meet your wife? Why did you meet here in UK or elsewhere?
Actually, I met Hanifa in Uganda. She's now called Hanifa. Yeah, I met her in Uganda, and that is how everything began. She had come to do something in the university, and then she took a trip, and by then I was a guide. That is how we got to learn each other. And then we went ahead and became friends. And then from there, things just progressed as we went along.
The friendship became something and ended up into a marriage.
Into marriage, yes.
What was the reaction, both, with her family? Let's start with your own family in Uganda. Seeing you, JJ, man coming from a very respected village, a man who's standing out in the community, and then all of a sudden you brought him Zoom. How did that play out?
It is shocking. It is shocking as as culture. Culture is something very it's so surprising because there are some things we take for granted, and then it appears to be very big to the other person, because it is, as the lady said, it is a learning process. So I assumed a lot of things that she would understand, but then when she got to the village, because I've taken her to the village several times, she has gone to the north and she has entered a great thatched house, but it was so shocking when she had a sleepover in a great thatched house, because the questions that came about in the morning was completely different from the question that before she entered the building.
What was the question?
The questions are, I thought, that was the first thing she asked me in the morning, guys. She said, I thought, what if somebody walked in and just touched this house? How do you escape from something like this? Because the door is locked.
Yes.
And then if somebody touches the house, how do you escape from this? Because there's only one door. There's one door and a very small window. How do you escape from this? And I said, for me, I see it as normal. It is just something,
Someone says here in the chat room, JJ, black people marrying a white person, some families see it as heaven on earth. Was that, did you get your heaven on earth, or what was your own take?
It's not heaven on earth, because the burden you carry on your shoulder is much, much heavier, because we blacks, we take most of the things it is normal for us. Difficulties, we grow in difficulties. We know things that, when you're growing up, there's things that you just know this is part of life, and yet to my wife, there are things that you take for granted, like say, if somebody asks you for a table and you don't have a table at home, for us it's normal. They just put for you a mat on the ground and you sit on the ground, and that's normal. But somebody who has grown from, in a different world altogether, and then you introduce something like that, people sitting down, it is completely different. You get what I mean? That is the least I can give you, the smallest I can give you. Those are the burdens. And the kind of food, you're training them to eat food like you're training a young toddler to eat the kind of food.
You're putting them on anyoya.
Aha, that's the thing. You bring kalo,
and
they ask you what is this.
Empengere banange ofide abanyarwanda imvugure kasori n'ebijanjaro kubagase no gabura. For those who don't know that one in particular.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is frightening. And then I took the boys there. When I took them, I think that was 2016 when I took them to the village, and they are not used to flies. So a fly lands on a kid and the kid says, what is this? Is this what they call a mosquito? And they can't tell the difference, and it becomes a problem all the time. They're saying, oh, I need to go back this side. This is tough, but it's a learning process, as the lady said.
But now from a family perspective, JJ, did you have, like, especially the elders within the community, did they have like pointing fingers? There is this welcome note that, welcome, sit down, and then in the back of the house, you just see people beginning to speak, behind someone's back. Are those things that you noticed, or your particular culture or traditions don't do that?
I think in our culture it's not there really, because the thing that you notice is when people want to see, this white person. How do they behave? How, it is like a surprise. They come around they come there to see. But then the person who is sitting in front of them, they're seeing this very different. They're seeing as if when somebody comes to you, and because, like, say, aunties and brothers, and they come and kneel down to greet, and they question you, why are they kneeling? Why is somebody kneeling? No, tell them not to kneel. I'm okay. It's fine. but they're not knowing that it is just a taboo that you need to, that is
it's the culture that they have to. Now that's your side of the family. Now, when you came and you had to meet, her family, how was, what was their reaction? Did you feel like you're in the wrong place?
Unfortunately, I did not. Her parents, both our parents passed away of cancer, so I didn't see the parents.
Mm-hmm.
But I met the auntie, who, to be honest with you, is, I don't know how I can put it. It is a tough thing.
Are you with your wife by any chance, Muzammil?
She's downstairs. She's at work. She's working.
Oh, she's working. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just thinking it would be interesting to hear her perspective, because now this is just black on black, black on black. It would be interesting just to hear, what her perception is. So what I'll do is I'll go to Abdul Karim Mugabe. Please, if you can, speak to her and see if she's fine. Let me know. It would be interesting just to hear her particular take. I'll be light on her. I won't be hard, if you don't mind.
Inshallah, I'll give it a try. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Abdul Karim Mugabe, you're live on Come Let's Talk with me, Kasim Kayira, and we are talking mixed marriages on the back of this particular interview that has raised lots of questions. Your take, Abdul Karim.
Assalamu alaikum, KK.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah, in principle of fairness, I wasn't surprised of yesterday's interview. I'll relate it to our culture and culture backgrounds in Uganda. You put into a picture whereby a Kabaka of Buganda marries a Munyoro. How would these clan leaders perceive it? And the Royal Institute here has norms. It has foundations. Already there are precedents which are already set, like the mother of Harry, the way she passed on is still not clear. So I don't think that the way the media reacted was really good, but to a bigger extent, the loyal culture has to protect its culture and norms. You can't two people can't be above the institution. That's my perception.
Now, Abdul Karim, now regarding our own traditions, because we wanted to customize, wanted to take the story back home. If you went with a white woman, for example, and introduced them, to your family, would there be resistance? Or have you had situations like that, either with you or with people that you know?
Yeah, there will be resistance. First of all, other people will see it as a modern thing, but people who are really attached to culture and norms, they'll see it like an outcast. You see, they will see, of all people, why have you brought a white woman? Why have you brought a white man? It's a generational thing. If they keep on bringing more racial marriages, people get to welcome them. But if it's one-on-one at the occasion, then there will be resistance.
Right. I'd like to hear more people, please, if you can come in and just share your experiences. It would be very interesting, especially people, we were talking about even white, black, but there is also black on black. And you just mentioned a very interesting example with the Kabaka of Buganda when it comes to the issue of, for example, marrying a Munyoro. You will know that the Kabaka Sabasajja had a son before Sangali Ambogo, and he had him with a Mnyarwanda woman. And it was a big issue that has always come into the picture, and there was almost nearly no allowing that. But within European, for example, royal families, they matched up. You could get, for example, a princess in Austria getting married to a prince in France or in the UK, just to make sure they maintain those royal ties. And that actually could happen if someone is coming from, the royal line. But that is always an issue. There would definitely be an issue, and if there was an issue with the Kabaka, probably would have had a different choice altogether. Now, I was talking about those personal experiences because sometimes, for example, when I was about to get married, you have several women lined up, especially lined up by the family, people that they expect that you would probably get married to. And so for me, the first priority would actually be probably a Muganda all Nyarwanda, and they were actually Banyarwanda and the Uganda women lined up for the potential that Kasim would marry. And then I jumped that entire loop and end up going to marry a Langi woman, you know, a Munyema woman, half Langi, half Munyema. And within the family circles, there was almost, you know, an instant resistance, trying to understand, you know, where, you know, where did you find that? Someone not probably thinking about the kind of relationship, the love that exists between the two of you. And sometimes you just need to stand your ground. And likelihood would have been, if I was really to listen to the family and the pressures that they were piling on me, likelihood is probably I would have yielded and left the person who I loved. But I persisted, and then that persistence now paid. But and the important thing is immediately they start seeing, is the person Muslim? Yes. Then you match. So that one was out. Is a person coming from a truly Islamic family that is just having an Islamic name, but when they are not, you know, actually probably practicing Muslim, that one is passed. So you find that all the barriers that are put in place start going away, and then they start, you know, meeting the person, and they realize, you know, probably they were wrong about their earlier perceptions. This is the kind of conversations I think that we need to be having, that once you get there, and once you cross barriers, almost every culture has its particular biases. All you need is just to see those particular biases. But the more you get exposed, the more exposure you have, the better you become in terms of appreciating communities. You go there, for example, Mubaganda, you would never, for example, you would go to serve someone food and you're going to bring water, you'll pour water, but the water would not be warmed up. In the north of Uganda, it's almost, you know, like taboo to give someone, you know, like water to wash their hands before eating, and it's cold water. It has to be hot water or lukewarm water, and that is like the standard. For me, as a person who is coming from a tradition that you think was really, really, you know, like big time, getting into that environment and finding this new thing suddenly starts to open up your own understanding, and you appreciate people the more you cross into these barriers. So it does not really even have to be black and white. Within our own communities, we find that actually there is a lot that we have to keep learning. Please share your particular experiences. It might be China, or even Emunyoro or Murango, who probably even Nigerians actually, who increasingly are taking many of our Ugandan sisters. And the conversation in the chat room, I can see the biggest challenge is the language when you visit the elderly. That is from Hajat Sarah. You can't enjoy village life as your partner feels left out during conversations, holding hands and kisses to reassure. But Nange, it is tough. Actually, you can imagine that situation, because this public display of affection, the PDA that we are so used to, every 2 minutes, it's you won't be sat before those singers, those tough singers, and you start bringing your zungu. You don't do that, the woman feels like you're not the affectionate person that they were. There is that balancing act which can actually be quite a thing. Farida here says Harry is not the first to do something like that. Number says many people have failed to grow warmth towards people of other cultures. They get glued to funny. What can I say? I think she leaves that to the imagination. Farida says, come on, Mugabe, the royals have done so many things. They are not supposed to marry a divorce, but Charles did with Camilla. Media, social media is necessary. It's a necessary evil. It's another pandemic we are dealing with. And let's just go to some of more of you. Probably I'll even be checking on Facebook to see what some of you are also saying down Facebook. But in the meantime, let's have someone else. Farida, you brought in a comment there. Farida, please unmute yourself. Farida. Okay, let's go to Muslima. Muslima, please unmute yourself. I'd like to hear these conversations, and it looks like people have suddenly gone quiet. These are experiences. You might not be married, but what if you end up and the person, the love of your life is a person that is coming from a different culture? How are you going to be, coping with that? How are you going to put up with that? How do you even manage, that? Actually, you were there. You had a very interesting conversation at the start of this particular conversation. I'd like to hear your take on this. Hood, if you can unmute yourself, please. I like to hear from the women the more, because I think we've had more women getting married to white men than black men getting married or marrying white women. Hood, are you at work and unable to speak? Hood, assalamu alaikum. Oh, and I unmuted you actually accidentally, I think. Hood, are you there? Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome, Sabo, to Come Let's Talk with me, Kasim Kayira. Your take.
Well, to me, I think I'll start with a positive.
Mm-hmm. Your line is a bit difficult. Try to speak up slightly.
With that time, eventually.
You are disappearing.
If from your own tribe.
Oh, the line is a big struggle. Salma Abubakar, are you there? Hood, try and get into a better position, then probably we'll try and come back to you. Salma Abubakar Jodi. Salma Abubakar. Naam, Salma, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello, Salma.
Raise my hand.
Naam.
I haven't raised my hand at
all.
Yes,
this is a conversation. This is a global conversation, Salma. We always cross. What would be the perception? What is your take actually on this?
Brother Kayira,
no.
Thank you so much for the opportunity you've given me. No. I'm not ready to contribute right now.
Okay. Well, I'm getting you, but you've been listening to this conversation so far. What if you ended up, actually, do you think racism is an issue at all with relationships? Do you think people should even marry across cultures? Do you mind who you marry? Probably that is definitely probably something you would have an answer
to. I don't know what I can say about it. But in my case,
no.
Subhanallah. Brother Kayira, may you please forgive me?
Well, I'm forgiving you, but if you answer just this one question. The words are Munga Allah created
no, brother,
what sort of challenges do you think are you likely facing? Probably that's an easier question to answer.
It depends on the character of someone, and two, the culture. And
you know your people well. Over my family of Jehovah, but by receiving about your Morabona, wow, what is someone that is outside your culture?
Do you know what? I'm sorry, please. I'm so sorry.
Okay. Aisha Zondani, thank you very much, Salma. Aisha Zondani, welcome to Come Let's Talk with Kasim Kayira here on 75W Radio and on Umma Connected via Zoom and on YouTube. Yes, what's your take, first of all, regarding this particular situation of Harry and Meghan?
Assalamu alaikum, everybody.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Harry's chances of shocking her for starters was the fact that she said there was a time when they had a debate about the skin color of the kids that the would-be kids that they would have. Chances is that like if someone, like, people are so horrible, like nobody was of what your like like racism is so bad, like it's a reality. It's something I think we have to, it's something we deal with every day. It's just there. Sadly, even in the royal family. So I just hope it doesn't escalate. USA, like people starting to retaliate. I just hope it doesn't get to that point. But
Right.
it's a reality.
And out of curiosity, Nchara Aisha Zondani, are you married?
Yes.
Are you married?
Unfortunately not.
Not. Okay. So still the picture, the image still comes in. If you are to end up with someone, for example, how would that play? Or probably someone from not actually from your tribe. The tribal sentiments are there. Would you have a problem introducing this person there?
So my story is, I'm currently in South Africa. I've been here for about 10 years now.
Oh.
So Mukuja, like my mom, the first thing she told me, Yangamba, Aisha, you're here. Na ye abasajja bana Uganda togeza no basemberera ko wadde. That's so irresponsible. So I'm like, okay, what do you mean they're irresponsible? Nangamba no baine pisembi baine bintu byabakola, like toina muntu goyinza okugenda ogamba, oh come we muwala wange, let me entrust my daughter to go out with this person oba agenda muwase oba agenda mufumbire tekisoboka kuba, like I don't know, she's been here for quite some time. So ababademu, she knows what, like behavior wise, balibatia. So now anyway, she spoke about that. Obera umbade war for all the time. Okula, definitely okula. You start thinking out of the box. Ogambe, like I would like to settle down with somebody. Nekati, let me open up my, like, let me just be open to anything, whatever comes. Right. So I got hooked up with this Nigerian guy, and he was a very good Muslim guy, so humble. So now I'm thinking to myself, like, we're talking about things, it was so serious. Gayagala, like, to take things to the next level. We had that connection, like, we just had that connection. Gayagala, agama, omani Aisha, let's go meet your parents, let's officialize it. Okay. We hear stories about Nigerians. But then Mulabieko, like, for the little time that I've known him, Mulabienga, he's a good person. But now I have to go and convince my mom, my dad, and other family members. So anyway, eventually I had to man up, so to say. This is the situation. Okay, so that day comes and I spoke to her. There's a situation. I need somebody. So she started asking, there's a catch. He's Nigerian. She's like, what? No, you cannot. That's not like a Nigerian, never. What if it's a fraudster? What if again kutunda into prostitution? What if it's going to make you sell drugs over bichi, like that negativity? But you told me abasajja na Uganda sibagenda, so I've been open in the way if I can try somebody else. Some people from other like nationalities or even tribes. No. So then I spoke to my uncle, an uncle of mine, maybe if she can convince her, Yagana, like Yagana, Yangamba, no, Sisobola, Musiramu, okay, Chirunji, na ye, Nanye, Tachi just soboka. So now, like,
so what are you going to do? What are you hoping to do now? That sounds like a dilemma.
It is a dilemma. It's been 4 years now. We lost contact anyway. He studied here, then Namala Nagenda. He had to go back home to establish himself. I think the distance contributed to, like, we just grow out of it.
Okay, Martin and Nambali Wamun, I'll be coming to you shortly. I just wanted to exhaust a little bit of Aisha. Don't get tired. This is a global conversation where we need to hear the depth and detail in these particular situations. So Aisha, what do you hope to do? You try to be persuasive and your persuasion didn't sell. What were you hoping to be the next step? Because of their irresponsibility. That almost throws a very serious dilemma. Has your mom probably tried to match you up with some potential men?
Sorry to say, my mom carry kokuno, but I don't think I would trust my mom to choose for me a person I don't think I would give her that. I would have that confidence in her
The reason I'm saying this is because then probably they give you options. So I was just trying to think, like, probably if someone tells you don't do this, then they should be able to provide you with an alternative. And therefore, I was wondering whether she has flagged. She did try to flag some men towards you to help.
No, not really. No, not really.
Okay. Please stay there, really. Aisha. I'm finding your conversation pretty interesting. Don't go away. Martin, please welcome to the conversation.
Thank you so much, Sevo.
Welcome to the program as well. Your text, Sevo.
What I would say is that the thing about Kubando is a big family, which is the royal family.
Yes.
But even our small families, which are unknown, we are going through the same problem.
That's why we are having this conversation today, I think.
Yeah. Kubanga, tuchurch tunolira ku colors, lewe eriyo n'ekyamadini, ekiraba. Ng'oli ajja kugamba toleeta wano mu Katoliki, toleeta wano Musiraamu. Naye nga gye tuba twerabidde nti waliwo ekintu eky'amaanyi okubeera omukwano. Nti gwo guba guyingiddewo, naye obusungu bwe tukireetamu bubeera bubi nnyo. Abantu bano engeri gy'obakwatamu nti omuntu ono gw'omusembeza otya, for example, singa aba mu Katoliki ono Musiraamu, gw'obasembeza otya waakiri omu akyuke. Naye tetukikola mu nkola nnungi, wabula tuleeta obusungu, oli n'agamba tojja kutwala muwala wange okuggyako ng'osiramuse. So you end up nga bakutayiridde naye ng'omutima gwo tegusiramuse.
Ng'omutima si mutayirire.
Abasazeeko obusaze kikuta, which is a Mugisu can also do.
Yes.
So kati nze n'ekitunuulira mu mbeera eyo, naye nga at the end of that day nze ndaba nti it depends ku ndowooza y'abaagalana. You cannot stop them. Olaba nti even the teenagers, when you try to stop them, tofuluma bweru era ajjabuuka ekikomera at the end of that day. Ekitegeera. So endowooza yo gwe nga gwe nze naaligambye nti teri muntu aba agenda kukwagala. Well, look, take an example. Like, for example, my dad is going to tell me never bring here a Muslim girl. But at the end of the day, I'm the one going to be with this person, not my dad. If this girl has got problems, I'm the one going to face those problems. Why don't you leave me as long as I'm mature enough? Look at kino ekintu nekijja kiba nti abantu obaleka bonga bo ne beesootinga kubanga you cannot stop them.
Aisha, was your Nigerian man a Muslim?
Yes, he was.
He was Muslim. Okay, so religion wasn't an issue.
A very good practicing one for that matter.
Okay. So Martin, cultures of Rosa, how can they change? Because while we've got into the 21st century, dilemma, but sometimes it's with reason. Omukwano omuntu gw'abakulaze waliwo ebintu bye tukola mu mbeera ezaffe ng'ate mu mbeera endala mu traditions endala bijja kuba bya njawulo. You can imagine a situation, for example, if you marry mu mbeera ezaali ezedda mu balaalo, your brother comes to visit and the next thing is you have to leave the bed for him, so he ends up sleeping with your wife. And these are traditions that have been there. It's things we've had. It's things that have been mentioned. So culturally, how do we open up our minds now to the bigger, wider cultural society beyond the confines of our own very small cultures?
I say like correction needs to be done, starting from even the royal family. What we've been to royal family say kundoze yange ngandaba nti they need correction. Things like kabaka tayenda simanya akola uchi naye aba yenzi. Ekitegeera. So kati like for example nga cultures of choka already byakyuka nadda. Singa twayagala bisigale nga bwe biri, we wouldn't have taken this like let our children to learn this modernity kind of stuff. Naye kati omwana omututte mu ssomero liri international. Ate gwe oyagala asigale nga behavinga nga jjajjawe. That cannot work. At the end of that day, naffe ffennyini we are not teaching them the culture, but we want them to practice it. How is this going to happen? So kyobola abantu omwana ajja ending up nga oli gw'asoma naye omuzungu bategeeraganye nnyo. Singa baba bamaze okumixinga up nti oli aleese ebibye n'ono aleese ebibye, bo actually bo batonzewo ne culture eyaabwe kati. Osanga omuntu nga is a Nigerian, this is a Ugandan, but they are mixing everything. The other one is bringing Nigerian culture. This one is bringing the Ugandan culture, and they are getting on well. So I've
seen a mix of that. In any instances, it's getting sometimes the end actually again kakana abanyarwanda bebaina akagero bagamba nti impyisi wanye kurya kurunda impyisi yewa mwe kuruya ekuriye kunganya teka suka magumba gare kare kaga gwenega sasa. So we've had situations where people have ended up into these particular relationships, and then in case something goes wrong, we're going to bring a disaster yamanyi. Let me bring Musisi into the conversation. Thank you very much, Martin. Musisi, what's your take?
Americans in decades. The stimulus checks could provide $500 for a typical family of four, making $100,000. It's unemployment benefits for roughly 11 million Americans.
Okay, now Baliwamuna. Yes, you had your hand up.
Okay. Another thing I want to talk about is social media. Social media, well, as it's good, but it's another stone in the shoe. It is one thing that has promoted bias racially, tribalistically, and gender stereotyping. Among we, when I say we, the journalists, there are those who have complexes and want to sell them out, but leave out facts. They end up hurting other people when they know what they are doing. Nze nalinga anda by the waliwo platform jenaliko yaba royals abo. Nenga bowile ebigambo bye boogera ku Kate ne bye boogera ku Megan bikwewuunyisa ate bonna ng'ababeera eri platform kuliko bazungu abasinga. Naye waliwo ebintu ebimu bye bakola olw'okubanga tebamanyi. The problem is that the way we see and perceive life in most cases is the way we are. Whenever you see life in a negative way, you will be like that. Equally, if you see it in a good way, you will see it like that. Abantu abasinga mu nsi muno kyebava tebaagala bantu balala kubanga bo kennyini tebeeyagala. There is low self-esteem. Ne bannamawulire ffe kennyini fe abasindikamu mu bantu obukyayi kubanga ffe kennyini tetweyagala olwa engeri gye baatukuzaamu. So obukyayi obwo tujja ne tubuteeka mu society nga tulowooza nti tuwa abantu amawulire so nga ate tutunda butwa eri bo.
Barakallahu fikum Muna.
Abantu abo babadde bakavaringibwa. Some newspapers have been covering those people naye nga batanishinga erinnya lyabwe.
It has been negative media, negative press that they have received.
Negative press is
and they have talked about it as well.
That has promoted racial bias in the whole world. Some TV stations, some magazines and newspapers are there to see that they suppress the black race. Black race eneya bagala bawulira balabanga ffe bagenda okubamalawo bo kuba balaba kati abaddugavu bangi so bagamba bano tubakole tutya tulina kuyita eno mu mawulire.
I just want to bring in more people conversation to the
naye ekyo tetukyerabira ffena ffe bannamawulire tukoze kinene okuleetawo obukyayi mu bantu.
3 women, this is from Facebook. Diana Katawarwa Sempewa says 3 women have complained about the same in-laws from hell. 2 of the women being pure Caucasian, and 1 was even an aristocrat like them. To meet Meghan for the first time, Princess Michael of Kent arrived for the family gathering wearing a blackamoor brooch. Yeah, the family was meeting and having their first dinner with Meghan, and all the jewelry she has, that is what the cake racist goon chose to wear. Blackamoor jewelry was made in the 18th century and depicts North African Moors in subservient roles with exaggerated features, thick lips, huge noses, etc. It is slavery-inspired jewelry and is what greeted Meghan on her first dinner with the family. Media uproar caused the racist goon to offer an apology, saying it was not intentional, but of course it was. Who wears an ugly black exaggerated features caricature 18th century piece of jewelry to meet a mixed race or black person in the 21st century? Now, Mara Ngomshana says racism is when someone assumes that they have power simply because of their skin color. It's not the skin, but the assumption that color elevates or diminishes one's place in society. So if a person says that someone has been racist, the reaction that it's not me or name who the racist person is a way of trying to silence the person and their experience by shifting the topic from the racism experience to the defense of those who are not racist. Mu chat room mwenyini conversation wabaddemu edduwa enene nnyo for Aisha Zondani from Farida Teke, who says, may Allah give you the best husband that will truly love you and give you happiness. Edduwa yiyo nzito atejjidde mu mukoro. Yunus Rubeka says, bring it on, bring it, bang on, Martin. People need to wake up to the realities of this fast changing world. Yunus Rubeka nga wali lwaki tumuwulizaako. Yunus Rubeka sebo, unmute yourself and I'll come to Ismail Kawumbi after.
KK, I have
please be
KK.
ready as well. We'll come to you just to hear. This is a global conversation. Nobody here is really free of not speaking because we are here to chat. You get a chili kumutima newechi basi chikwata ko. We can still have it.
KK, you know, in Nigeria,
contributing. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Welcome to Come Let's Talk with me, Kasim Kayira here. Your take
very much
on the internet.
I'm on my coffee break, but really this is very interesting. I've been listening to it in the background.
Barakallah fiik.
I happen to be one of those people you call being in a mixed marriage.
I didn't know that. Yes.
Mixed children, and alhamdulillah, we are very happy with the way things are. And to me, I would say, if it's none of your business, really, leave people alone. And the sister that was up there that touched on something really important, and that is people need to learn to be happy with themselves. Don't look at other people's issues when you have issues of your own to deal with in terms of marriage.
But Sheikh Yunus, we are brought up in a community where we have been brought up by an entire community, so we feel responsible to that community.
You are brought up by the entire community. You still have to be realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Even people that marry women or men chosen by their own families, we have seen them divorcing. People marrying black, white, they have divorced.
Mm-hmm.
So if the concern is about divorce, I think the concern is misplaced. Secondly, we as Muslims, I think this should not be an issue. Our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he had Maria, she was Egyptian. Prophet Muhammad was Quraysh, Arab. Maria was not an Arab. He never raised an issue with that. He had Safiya, she was Jewish or Israeli if you want. And of course, Arab women taunted her out of ignorance. And the Prophet would always stand by her, reminding them that she was a descendant of Abraham. So to me, I would say if black and black were not divorcing at all, I would say I would give it credence. If white and white, Arab, Indian, I would say fine, they don't divorce, and maybe it's okay to make it an issue. Just stick to your own color, your own religion, your own race, and so forth. So what I would like to say as the last thing is know yourself. Know what you want. The people selecting spouses for you are not the ones that are going to live with that spouse. So in the end,
now, you've mentioned that you are in that mixed relationship. Have you had a chance to take your wife and children, back home? And what was the community?
Many times.
Yeah. How did they receive? Did she feel welcome?
You see, it depends on you yourself. If you are insecure, I think, you lack commitment in the things that you believe in, people are going to sway you. Even people who don't know even to guide other people or guide themselves, let alone other people, may want to give you unsolicited advice. But the thing is, I love my uncle Abdurrahman. Before I got married, way back then, I remember visiting the UK, and then he said, Yunus, when are you getting married? And I said, well, I don't know. I haven't, met the right person. And then I remember him saying that, asking me about the culture, like, does it matter which one you're going to marry? I said, you know what? This was the time, when Charles and Diana were having their problems. Mm. And I said, you know what? It doesn't matter to me. If the person, interested in is honest, cares, not selfish, you know what? The rest doesn't count for me. I live, in a country that, the majority of whose citizens do not look like me. All right.
And that's Canada, yeah?
That is Canada.
That is for the benefit of our audiences, just to know how global we are in this conversation. Yes, please.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are a multicultural country, and multiculturalism in Canada is official policy. You go Google it up. It's law. All right. You can't be discriminated based on your color, your religion, your gender, all these things in writing. And you can challenge it if you think you're being subjected to some kind of differential treatment based on those 11 forbidden grounds for discrimination. Mm. So I would say, people really need to learn to mind their own business. If your son, your daughter, chooses to marry someone from Botswana, and you happen to be, I don't know, from Busoga, just find a way of, making them understand that we are all human. One cut, you see, blood, and if someone doesn't tell you, you wouldn't know that this blood is from Uganda, is from Musoga, is from Nyankore, and so forth.
Barakallahu fikum, Sheikh. You said you are in your coffee break. I'll let you continue, finish up that cup of tea. Thank you very much for your input. I can see lots of hands now coming up. Ismail Kawumbi, naiba denzi jawu buterevu mbadenja gadi mbaransi ngemu funemu kumarobozi amachara. Nzikiriza, you are still there. We are still continuing with the conversation. Hajat Sarah, please, if you can come on, and then I'll come to Ismail Kawumbi and then to Zamzam Mwanga. Don't go away. We are live on 75 Radio as well as on Zoom. Via YouTube on Umma Connect as well. Yes, Hajat Sar.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Wewe bali kuja mu discussion.
I'm actually, it's a very interesting question. Now, much as we're here, it's a free world for people to marry who they want to marry, but things which you have to take into consideration. That marriage is not meant for vacuum, and you be very fair to the family that lived with you for all your lives, and you bringing nephews and nieces and grandchildren into their life, which we all look forward to. So, it's very important also to understand who you are. The previous speaker who's just gone before me, marry whoever you want to marry. I totally disagree. Okay, it's important to marry the person you love, but there are factors you have to take into account. You have to think of your family. This is who we are. We're not telling, much as you choose who you are. Where do you come from? Even in Islam, we are told that and the biggest problem here in the diaspora is just butamanya oli mwana wani, and you just marry every Tom, Dick, and Harry that comes into your way because the guy looks good. But eventually, when you come to fit that person into your family life, there are only two options: to become very lonely, and you go with the choice you've made. And that means your children never having a sense of belonging and the joy you had with the big family you had, or take some of your considerations and before you make that big decision. I think it's very important not to be selfish, not to say this is just me. You were never alone throughout your life. You grew up with a family. You can't just leave your family to follow your heart, only your heart.
Absolutely. I think I agree to a large extent. And now we're actually getting now love, much values, because even every culture, the only way that cultures are transferred and transformed is through the intergenerational inheritance and passing on of that culture. Now, once you start breaking this, you're actually breaking a very important code. And I think you raise a very important point where you say you either decide to go it the lone wolf way, where you decide to be lonely and keep your husband or keep your wife, sticking away from the community or the culture that you came from, or you try to find a way of compromising on this. And I think where love comes in, actually, probably the two could be merged and they might work in some instances. In some instances, it might not work. Thank you very much. Ismail Kawumbi. Ismail Kawumbi.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi
Waalaikum salam. Nasebo orudde yongo omukono guli waggulu waawo.
Tekina mtawana seka.
Conversation dozo giraba gyeraga.
Tekina mtawana. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for this talk. Is at the core of our values. First and foremost, I'll start talking as a Muslim from Uganda and now in diaspora in the UK. We'll go be Muslim first, because some of what we're saying here is like contradictory to the Islamic teaching.
Protecting your culture when it might not be necessarily Islamic.
Al-Muslim wa kul Muslim.
Yeah.
So I don't know why it's a big deal for a Munyarwanda girl marrying a Muganda girl, or an English girl marrying a Ugandan girl. The point here is, before both parties get in a relationship, I think it's vital to understand each other's cultures and values before you make that decision. I'm not being disrespectful about the African culture. I respect all cultures. And we go understand here, we are working with people of different cultures and backgrounds. Fortunately, when I came to this country, I got opportunity to work with people of different cultures and background in my immigration job. So I developed a very good understanding. In fact, before I got a job, most of the people who helped me to get permanent settlement in the UK were no Ugandan, other than you, Kasim, Kayira, and a few other Ugandans. So I got to settle here. This was my journey. I go in hand. I tried getting support from Muslim brothers and sisters. Went to different mosques, but nobody helped me. They told me, we can't help you because we'll be picked on as people supporting terrorists. So I asked them, am I a terrorist? I'm known by the immigration in the UK. Why do you say I'm terrorist? So fortunately, to cut the story short, I didn't get help from many Muslim brothers and sisters. The people who helped me, in fact, helped me up to university were Christians. I just want us to understand how we benefit from these people. I'm not saying we join them, but we go learn from each other. Get a good thing from both sides. Get them together and become good citizens of wherever you are.
Is your wife Muganda?
I said, I don't believe at the moment we go people who are pure Baganda or pure Banyankole. We've mixed up. Let's be honest here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be honest. If you look at your lineage,
how does she describe herself? Does she describe herself
from Uganda, but we are mixed up. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
We are all mixed up.
Mm-hmm.
We can't deny that. I'll give you an example of when there was a debate here. We used to have the BNP in the UK. There was one English lady who said, why are these immigrants coming here? So there were about 3 of them. And people proposed having a DNA test. When they did the DNA test, unfortunately, the woman who was strongly rejecting Asians or Black people coming to England, unfortunately, her DNA proved that she had links with the Middle East. So that's why I'm saying we are all mixed up. So we go understand where we are now. We go respect each other. The main thing we should, especially us as parents, is we should give good advice to our children. These children.
Thank you very much, Ismail. I'll only stop you because I just wanted to. I can see more hands coming up, and we are nearly getting to the half post. Do you have 10 10 seconds for that
10
last
seconds briefly, we'll go respect.
Yeah.
Working with people of different cultures and backgrounds and respect each other's values, learn from each other and give our children the best advice. Born in diaspora, they are diaspora children. You can't change on
and the conversation, actually, what Ajat Sarah has done is actually open up now a whole barrage of counter messages. She made a stance to an extent to which I agree with, but then Sheikh Yunus Rubega as well as Martin had actually raised a very important point. I think it will be interesting towards the end of this program, just to maybe the last 10 minutes to bring back Hajat Sarah. Please be on standby, and then I'll try to get Martin, because Sheikh Yunus said he was just having his coffee break, so he might be back into work. But it will be interesting just to hear the rebuttal, just to have a conversation between the two of you, just in terms of coming from all these different paths. Zamzam Mwanga, you have them. I think it's Ida first. Ida first, and then Zamzam. No, I think Zamzam was before Ida. Zamzam Mwanga, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yes, just to clarify more on the statements of, I think was Ismail. Ismail stated that the Nigerian brother, he said that you marry whoever you want, which is okay. But however, we need to understand that when we do get into marriages, however, we're gonna need our family support. So when things go pear-shaped, where do we run to? Family support. And the first thing, if you married somebody and your parents were not in favor of that person, then you're gonna be left in a situation where you have nowhere to run to. Then you're gonna what to do now. The same thing as I think Sarah was saying,
Sarah did validate that, yes.
Yes, it's important okufumbira omuntu gwoba okuwasa omuntu gwoyagala obachi, but at the same time, family plays a big deal into these marriages that we get into. Muzaala abaana, they have to intermingle with other children. Society expecting us so much from you guys, and if you don't have family support in some cases, or if not in most cases, you find yourself into a depression state. Not many where to run to. Your friends, in most cases, you don't speak the same language. Your cultures are different. I was once married to a Nigerian man, but we found that it was a very sticky situation because what I was expected to be doing was a bit different from what I knew. His mother.
What were you expected to be doing?
I'm in Uganda, but there were certain cultures I think his mother wanted to do. She came over to try and give my child a special bath, which I did not initially understand what that was a big deal of. And I did not like the way she was handling my child. So when I raised my concern, it was a big issue. My husband decided to throw some tantrums, and I didn't really understand because I said to him, it was up to him to teach me what I was expected or what was expected of his mother, or how I was expected to behave in front of his mother, but not to suppress me, not to voice my concerns. So I think out of culture, sometimes it brings a lot of issues. And when you don't have your families behind you, or you have to face all these things by yourself. No, you're segregated, in a place where you don't know where to turn to. So I think family support is greatly an important issue when we get into all these marriages.
This is a conversation I think really would have been very important for our young people, especially to sort of follow, because I think all these are matters arising, and you might take them, because you're rushing in love at the moment of love when you are all heated up, but then you forget these important support structures. Very important as well for the people that are getting into marriages, both men and women. It is important to have a family backup system. If one of the spouses, especially on the part of men, if a man knows that a woman, has no back home support, what happens is if this person is going to mistreat you and all of that, they know you have nowhere to run to. It is very important to have that family support, but that family support should not come actually to sort of be an impediment to your relationship. You have to find a way of balancing this act, to sort of find a middle ground where, one, you can enjoy your relationship, but at the same time, also enhance and promote your culture. It is really important for couples, men and women, know that you have a fallback plan that is a family support. And I think I agree with you very much, Zamzam. What did you take on this particular interview and Megan's situation?
I didn't really watch the interview,
Oh,
but
you
however, I managed to see a few pics from here and there. But however, racism doesn't surprise me because we live in a society where we blacks, we are racist. This one is too black. This one is too light. This one is not from the same culture. So it becomes an issue. People are never satisfied with whatever they see. So that racism issue didn't really offend me in any way because it's the reality we live in. Even at the time of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we saw how not Abu Bakr, what was his name? Bilal. We saw how Bilal was treated, though he was very loved by the Prophet. So it doesn't faze me. So I wasn't really surprised at all whatsoever.
Barakallahu fikum, Zamzam. I'm only moving on so that I can bring in more people. Ida, please, if you can get unmuted. And lots of messages, actually, a very heated conversation that is taking place in the chat room. Tabitha Kakai, who is new to this forum, says, marry a man of your choice, not because of pleasing your family. Yunus Rubega said, Hood, not a problem as long as their father does not disown them. Ismail Kawumbi says, let's be good Muslims and not discriminate people. However, we should develop love. Aisha says, kunyiga mwana mutwe mundoza mwali mwechogero. I think that case that Zamzam just brought up. Haji Abekawesi says, culture alone without keeping religion in mind might not be the biggest issue if the parties involved feel they can find a balance. Taking it back to Islam, it is clear we only marry those who are believers. So it wouldn't be a problem if it's an interracial marriage when both are Muslim. Only one who understands, values Islam will understand my argument. And here from Hood says, Yunus, they can, but can't be in line to lead, hence sidelining Junju, even though he's the first son. I think that was an issue that was raised by Yunus Rubega, saying, so Princess Junju and Wasaja are not welcome in the Buganda royal family because their mothers are not Baganda. The last time I checked, they were royals too. We marry from all over the country and the world. But I think that was an answer that has already been set. Hajat Sarah was saying it's okay not to agree, but I think it is important to understand where you come from and how the person fits in. If you get a good partner, ensure the person is flexible and is willing to accept the family values. Hopefully we might be able to fit in the last 10 minutes if we can. If we cannot, let's continue the conversation. Either end, your take, please.
Salam.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You're live on 75W Radio and on Umma Connect via Zoom and YouTube. Talk to us.
My issue is I don't have a problem to marry in a race. Problem is, before you get married to somebody like it's not your race, you need to know the background of this person. Because if you don't know, you find problems ahead. First thing, the religion is very important before you look at the race. And when I come to race, I would say like family background. If your husband doesn't know your family, you've mentioned that, I wanted to say it. It's gonna be a problem because the thing is, you can't be with your husband only the husband is family. Like for instance, if he takes you to his family and you don't understand the language, that's gonna be a problem, you know? Because I have a story. Pardon?
Bakugeya, it is easy to
Yes, I
backbite.
have a story. This lady, she was going to be, you know, she was going to be done something. They were going to do things on her because she didn't understand the language. But luckily, the kids used to hear the dad, you know, saying those words. And then the child say, you know, mommy, we better go, you know, something is not right. So to me, my fear is, let's not go there. To me, my fear is marrying somebody and I don't understand the language. That's a problem. And if your husband is not interested to teach you, that's another problem. You see, you go to their family, they'll be discussing other things, yet it's your husband. He cannot support you to say, you know what, they've said this ABCD, you know. That's where I'm coming from, that it's a problem.
Now, Ida, the Banyankore have got a saying, Oshwera, Abuza, Ozara, Araguza. The point being that whoever is going to get married, they should investigate. They should carry out deeper investigations about who they are going to marry, which I think is the point that you're making. Yes. And the second aspect, they're saying if you give birth to a child, then you'll definitely learn how how to get medicine, to see what medicine works and what medicine doesn't work, and all of that. Now, the problem is sometimes in the environments that we meet, you've come to the UK, you bump into someone, they've come from Angola, they've come from Democratic Republic of Congo, Nigeria. The amount of time, how much time should there be? Because probably sometimes there's this sense of urgency. You feel like you might lose the person and therefore you rush. You don't want to do haram and therefore you want to just do things the right way. How much time do you have to even find out about these background checks that you want? Getting a DBS on the person regarding their family and culture. How easy is that?
To me, this is my opinion. That's why I'll stick to where I'm coming from.
Right.
Yeah, that's my answer. But I don't have a problem with anybody who marries whoever, they can go ahead.
No, my question to you was just in terms of, because I agree with you on the principle of checking out to see, the person's background, because that might come in handy. But how much time do you think there will be, especially in the urgency of love?
Then I won't do it. I won't do it.
Okay.
No,
Thank you very much. Barakallahu.
They can carry on and do whatever, like marry whoever, but we have to be very careful because.
Yeah, but I wanted you to provide that sort of advice on how they would go about it, because you are burning with love. You're worried someone might snatch the person and take them. And in that urgency, you don't have enough time to be able to go to address that particular, the background checks. Is there a quicker way of being able to do that? Women are very good at investigation.
If somebody loves you,
yes,
he might introduce you to the family and say, I've got so and so. Then you start to chat. That's when you get to know, or like friends, family friends. Even your fiance or your husband to be, you can say, we do this at home. We call this. It's all comes, when the person loves you deeper. That's where I'm coming from. But if the person, love is blind. Love is blind. You can jump into something and then you realize when it's too late. So.
All right. Barakallahu fikum. Thank you very much. Samsung 9. Thank you very much, Aida, for your time. Samsung 9.
Oh yeah. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh Kasim.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ya Sheikh. How are you, sir?
Alhamdulillah, what an interesting discussion.
I
think of it because I just jumped into the middle of the conversation. I think is very, very interesting. But I just wanted to make a couple of points. I think we are talking about something that happens to be, we think is a new phenomenon, and especially sometimes many parents, especially in the UK, maybe in the diaspora, when it comes to who their, the potential spouse for their children is going to be, there are always going to be some kind of nerves. And simply because we are all subject to what I would call a psychological bias. We always think in terms of we are the best, we are the right people. Maybe naturally, from our background, where we come from, we have a tendency of feeling that we think in terms of, tribes, which I think is very, 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 detrimental to the society, because it doesn't fit into what I would call the fundamental or the ring-fenced cultural norms. Now, Martin talked about, we should be free to marry, everyone should be free to marry, whether Muslim, Christian, whatever, ABCD. He might be right in his own, in his own self, but there is what we call the ring-fenced values. And these, for us as Muslims, we take them as part of our responsibility that goes a long way even in helping our children when it comes to the moment of looking for their spouses. But again, there are some values that are not meant to be fixed. They can move on alone. So when it comes to the question of, which country the person is coming from, that should not be much of an issue. What we have to think about is the key qualities, how practicing he is, the values of his faith, but these are ring-fenced. And then the rest of the beauty, the wealth, the status, these are equally good, but they are not fundamentals. And I think, and much as we might want to hold on to marrying within our Baganda culture, Basuga culture, whatever, we have to accept that sometimes in the next coming few generations, we are going to behave like an island. It is an island that either is shifting or it is drifting. If it is drifting, It might be such one that even if we go all the way to Jamaica or the Caribbean, we will still maintain our culture. We're going to look ourselves as Baganda from Uganda and ABCD. But if it's going to be shifting, I think we live in a world now where your daughter or your son might say, look, this is the person and she's the Muslimah, as Zam mentioned about gave her experience. And sometimes we as parents can be very difficult, maybe especially to stomach, but as long as the core values are ring-fenced. And as far as Muslims are concerned, we have a duty to ensure that the next generation, our children, we support them to get someone who they agree in terms of faith. Not only because you want to avoid the difficulty they might face later on in disagreement as to which faith the children are going to follow, but you say it's our responsibility. That is a ring-fenced kind of area. But the rest of other things should be overlooked. I mean, the issue of where she comes from, where he comes from, there shouldn't be very much. But of course, it doesn't mean we don't give it due consideration. But they shouldn't take the prime consideration, because by the end of the day, good manners knows no boundaries. It's not only that I'm meant to be honest, trustworthy, reliable, and so on and so forth. These qualities and these values can be found across the board. But as long as they are centered around that core element of being faithful, and these I think are very important things. Imagine they brought two people in front of you, and you look at someone, he says that, look, this guy, I'm from, for example, in Angola, and the natural reaction is going to be, oh, this man is Angola. No, he's from Nigeria or from Uganda. If you're from a different country, you start looking at them differently. So even you ignore all the other positive aspects they might have. But the moment you realize that, okay, it was a prank, this man is from your country, then you realize, oh, now he's a 50 person from my country.
These are the psychological biases that you say.
Exactly. We don't know what we want. And actually, we cheapen the most treasurable value that we have, because we are thinking about our culture. We all know in Uganda, when you look at the history of Uganda and the Bantu migration, their exodus, you can see how history tells that we came all the way from South Africa. Unless you take the other version of the Kivu and Nambi, who came from heaven and started spreading the generation. But mankind has always been on the shift and is always evolving and will continue to evolve. But I think in the midst of this, as we drift and shift, we have to hold first onto the core values of faith, and then the others can be, build up as we go along.
Barakallahu fikum. Thank you very much, Sheikh Suleiman, and let's continue the conversation. Yeah. Sheikh Zaid, Umma Connected, I think you had indicated that you had a Nigerian friend who wanted to have something to say. Please get them ready, and then we can talk to them. I've just kept seeing the message, and I wanted to come in, but then kept getting taken away. I enjoy very much bringing in new people that join our conversation, because people come here for the kind of conversation, the discussions that we have. And I think that is building up our global community conversation. So I see a new name here, and please, I saw she disappeared now. There was Stella. Just disappeared. I think as I was just asking them to to unmute. Let me go to. Let's just get somebody else. So there was Aisha. Aisha, your hand was up and then you disappeared. I don't know if you ran out of patience. Aisha, are you there? Aisha, yes. Assalamu alaikum, Aisha.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Hey, your hand was up for a long time. I'm sorry, but I'm sure you are still enjoying the conversation as it was flowing. What's your take?
Fine, it was up, but I think Samsung 9 covered a lot of what I was going to say. So.
Right. Well, but they can't say them in your words.
Yeah. Really. Hajat Sarah and Zamzam. About needing your family. And the fact with your family all these years, if you're going to get married, then you should consider your family. See agreeing on a because sometimes families feel entitled of making a choice in your love life. Just because si Muganda, ajja tukooya tayogera lulimi lwaffe bali emmere bweti you know ne bamugana ku nga tebamuwadde chance they don't know oba muntu mulungi or no ne bafuukira ddala ekizibu ne bagana omusajjawo n'abaana ne babazira and I think that is so wrong. At the end of the day I think omuntu alina okulonda somebody gw'afinga comfortable naye kuba yagenda okulastinga naye yabeera naye day in and day out. Yes, buli omu yandiyagadde support of their family but family oba nga terina a good reason lwaki egaana omuntu ono I think omuntu ali entitled tukola ky'abayaga.
Abaganda balina olugero olugamba nti eriiso ly'omukulu awaddugala we walaba. Sometimes there have been instances where you bring a man into a family and you want to get married to the man. Omuntu omukadde omu najja bw'ati n'atula n'agamba omusajja oyo namulabirawo ng'alina bwe yajja oba mukyala namulabirawo n'aba nga araze those things. Of course, we don't know what the future holds. But if there are particular issues that are raised or concerns that are raised, Ogambie not giving the person a chance to be able to understand, you know, who they are and probably what they stand for. But there are these first impressions sometimes which become lasting impressions. Don't you think there might be value in that?
It's true, value really, but don't judge a book by its cover. Yes, but sometimes no was wrong. I is judging according to previous experience. Atono na turning out ngali completely different. I think maybe I'm more chance, but I'm judging a yenga not because as a balancing empale atambula simanyi andawe azirabika yotajja kwa samuala wafi. Yes, I know your style jayaga nina turning out to be a really good person. I think nebe wunya no kwe wunya ninga bali gamba aba balancing empale tebajja kujja mu family muno oba you know ne bam judging up judges by the way jayambala oba the way jayogera nga tebamuwadde na chance oba the fact ne bam judging kuba si Muganda oba si muna Uganda ne bamugana.
Okay. That's thank you very much, Aisha. Usually Kasenya on Facebook, which is live on 75W Radio, as well as on my own Facebook page, Kasim Kayira. Many a times he says background information is edited by family members regardless of originality of our partners. I think that feeds into Aisha's point as well. But now he's emphasizing that sometimes there will be instances where they just simply family members decide to cut it out. Ali, and then I'll come to Martin and then Becca Chi. Ali, if you can unmute yourself, please. Yes, welcome to the conversation.
Wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the program. This is a multilingual. Amen.
Kati kyensooka okusaba ka program kano kabadde kayitirivu nate mmanyi abantu bangi abakamiisinze simanyi bamusobola okukolayo enteekateeka ne mukazzaakoko kuba abantu abasinga ffenna kino kyetugwamu kino eky'obufumbo marriage naye nga nzize ku mulamwa obufumbo buno si bwangu naye byonna ekyo ekisinga kugamba buba bugumiikiriza. Oyinza okuwasa omujamaika omuki naye obutali bugumiikiriza tebusobola kubaawo. Sirina byakuteesa bingi naye kyenjagadde okuleeta kugamba simanyi kano okazza okatukomezaawo okwo oba mu wiiki ejja oba biki kugamba abantu.
Well, I'm sure in a conversation ekyagenda mu maaso naye what we normally do to streaming live both on Facebook ne ku YouTube. Link ejja kubanga weri so people tusobola ko link ejja kubeera available immediately after this show inshallah. You take up Facebook and then we can have the conversation again. But what about some issues is again to concentrate in just relationship, but it just in terms of the love and race aspect. Now, the mental issue aspect, which again would still come to the conversation. Now, definitely, I really think maybe from especially to youth perspective, Becca Chinji, who is coming on next before I bring Martin, is to know how we can arrange maybe a particular session mainly for the young people because they are getting into marriageable age There is a lot of conflict that is going on. Sheikh Sulaiman Chibuka raised the issue of students going to school together. So you'll find many of us, our children are going to school with Nigerians, with Ghanaians, with so much. So with that, the kind of social interaction that they create within those environments do influence who the person they might think they might end up with. So probably there is need to find a sort of a synergy, a sort of a middle ground of how we can bring these cultures, especially so that they can now, allow our children, to further themselves into relationships, but also coming in with an informed situation instead of just falling and rushing into things. It's not just about love. There is more to a relationship. And that's why when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, for example, speaks about the relationship, he says, in the verse, he says, وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. So mawadda, that love is there, but there is that understanding. That one actually now is a wider perspective, and that's where things like cultural considerations might actually come in, but also the understanding, and actually better understanding between the two couples is built upon better knowledge. We understand by being knowledgeable, and the knowledge is built by seeing all these different facets of our relationships and lives. Becca Chinji, please quickly, so that then we can go to Martin. Welcome. Pay indication. I haven't seen any indication to that.
No, I said that because I can't raise my hand.
Becca, with your permission, please, let me get this Nigerian man and then to Jeju.
Come.
We have a guest and we have respect for guests. Yes, so you start saying, I had waited for you to give me. I didn't get it. Sorry about that. Yes, please.
Hello, sir.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm very glad to join this conference.
Oh, thank you very much.
Indeed, I was being introduced by my very dear friend.
Yes.
And it's about intermarriage. Is that what it is?
Intermarriages, yes. And it's becoming very clear that Nigerian men are invading our Ugandan territory very much. Is that something you have seen?
Well, I kind of have a different belief altogether.
Yes, please.
And I believe whatever we are doing, we shouldn't just do it for the sake of it. Mm-hmm. We have to think of the Lord, the Almighty Creator. And we need to know here that our God is not a foolish God. So if God has created a man and a woman in a certain tribe and race, I think God knows that in that tribe and in that race, you're going to find all you need, your wife, your husbands, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. So why will someone, let's put it, an African, leave his own culture, his own race and all traditions and go to a place like China or Europe to go and look for a wife? I just don't understand that. I know everyone has their own opinion. It might be a bit harsh to some people, but I think there is a problem there.
Yeah, but as you can see, I didn't get your name, sir.
My name is Greg.
Oh, great. Okay, great. Welcome to this conversation. In the chat room, which is part of the conversation because ours is an open discussion where we get everybody's views in. In the chat room, there is already a lot of support. I just mentioned that Nigerian men have invaded our territory, that many Ugandan girls are getting married to Nigerian men. And they were saying, someone here comes in and says, Nigerians are more caring than our men. That is from Shadia Zak. Laila Kadu says Nigerians by love. So actually that one is easy. Although you don't know the language, you can hear Balina just means Nigerian men have a lot of love to give and dishing out a lot of this.
That's a lie.
So yes.
We also have love, man.
I kind of think even Nigerian get married to a Ugandan or a South African. I think
Nigerian
that is the same.
If you look at the number of Nigerian girls, Nigerian ladies who are getting married to Ugandan men, that is relatively smaller in comparison to Nigerian men who are marrying Ugandan women.
Well, I think yeah, well, it depends. What reasons have they got in that? I don't see anything wrong in that anyway, to be very honest with you.
No, we are not saying it's anything wrong. We're just saying you're managing to cross the barrier, you're managing to enter into territory that has not been there.
You're marrying Hausa when you're Yoruba.
No, we are blacks, we are Africans. We are one people in that regard. But what I'm talking about is an African and a European, an African and a Chinese, an African and an Indian. You understand what I'm saying? I kind of see that very, very absurd. In my own opinion, I might be very shallow in my thoughts, but I kind of think if I get married to someone from maybe Ethiopia or Uganda, I think we are still maintaining the same race. We have little cultural differences, but it's not as different as someone coming from a very, very strange background like the rest of the people. You understand?
Yes.
I can be easily picked out in a group of white people. You get my point?
Right.
So too can a white person be easily identified. What I'm trying to say has a lot of deep meanings. I may not be able to
explore, expand it at this particular moment in time. Greg, thank you very, very much for your contribution, and I hope you will stay. You'll keep coming for these conversations, because
I will definitely.
Every Tuesdays from 8 to 10, we always have these different topics, and chances are we might need your presence again. Thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Bye-bye. Cheers.
Bye.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi.
Thank you very much for this wonderful topic. But for me personally, I feel like I was not surprised with regards to what was said last night, but I was more surprised to the fact that actually they got the guts to actually say it, because we all know that's what happened. We all knew the moment we saw that Meghan is getting married to Harry, we all knew this is going to happen, but we didn't think that would actually come out. But bringing it back to home, I think the issue is all about communication. You know, if you're marrying into someone that's not from your culture or your tribe or country, I think the issue is having that talk. You need to literally sit down. The advice is sit down and tell that person to work for one and so the first child, we have to eat that child, you know. You know, for what, you know, have that talk, that conversation. The only problem is after having that conversation, then let's say, for example, here in the United Kingdom, you marry a Nigerian or you marry a Ghanaian or whatever. At the end of the day, time is going to come, you're all going to want to go back to Africa. So you're going to have that fight. Which country are we going to go to? Uganda or Ghana or wherever, you know? So it's all about having that conversation and picture forward, because so many things are going to come along. But if you've not sat down and had that chat, you know, you're not literally, you're going to face battles. That's why it's going to be easy for the family to come in, because you're already weak. You didn't visualize forward. So but when the family comes in, it's going to be very easy for them to mess up everything. Before you know, you've got kids, and at the same time you're splitting up. So then you leave kids that, you know, one is half this, one is half that. Then you don't know where you belong. So that's an issue about having that conversation. Once you have that conversation, that no matter what, you know, we can face this battle together. We're going to live in the United Kingdom, or if we decide to live here, we're going to move to Uganda or Ghana or Nigeria, whatever. Just so long as you have that conversation, because we need to accept it. This conversation, our families, this will come up, whether we like it or not. But it's just a matter of
how soon we have that conversation. All right, Becca Change, thank you very much. 3 minutes to the top of the hour. I'm trying to stick to time. So I'll go to Fatuma Mugwanya, and then Martin, I'm not forgetting you. I'll come to you last because you've already had your say. Fatuma Mugwanya, please keep it sweet and short. Oh, and more hands are coming up. Wallah, program always gets this hectic and exciting as we get to the close. Fatuma Mugwanya, please. Assalamu alaikum. Fatuma Mugwanya.
I didn't test our test of your never will get the I think okwagala kuziba amaaso ngera bagamba love is blind, but on the end of the day bona ovuma nti ku manyoko yasinga okuba omulungi kubanga omanya muddaka. On the end of the day kubanga mumanya mudda wa ebiseera ebisinga abantu tetwerabira weetaagamu ak'okubeera nti ono weeka kwagala weekuli abantu bafuna mu different country naye always nga twakajja abantu bangi nnyo abeeranga ne mukwano gwange mu Zimbabwe alina amwagala mu Ghana nga omusajja amwagala nnyo naye ng'ono agamba nkoowa okwogera oluzungu buli ssaawa kubanga ate oli tamanyi Luganda agamba ne banyiiga ne muvuma mu Zimbabwe talina kyamanyi kati nga gw'obeera awo ntagamba yanyiizizza saagaladde omutunulako naye sinaalabe mugamba nina okwogera luzungu paka lwennamu
ate okuvuma mu luzungu birina lwe bizibuwala waliwo ekitanyuma bulungi ng'owulira ekivumo tikizitoye
agamba lwenyiga yamuvume mubiri byanaategeere byewaffe naye nga baagala naye omusajja amwagala naye ngaera gya n'agamba senga ofumbyemu ng'emmere y'eggana kati always ebyo nga mubeeraawo nga mujja kubeera olina byotajja kutuusanga abeeyakulaakola ki obigatta olw'okuba olina abaana naye on the end of the day Allah anti yagamba yatugaidinga buli kimu bakyali abanoonya musabe nnyo Allah akuwa omuntu olw'omutaamu nga tojja kusanga buzibu abaana bo batunula batya always bampita Munyarwanda naye nga n'okulwogera sirumanyi wano ewaffe buli andaba atandikira mu Lunyarwanda olwa jjajja wange
kakasaayi mwekalisi sibakuwayiriza buwayiriza
naye sinaamuwadde alifu banyina kubira keke no orderinga nensobola
Fatuma, assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much. Martin Sebo, Martin, you have been waiting for so long. Then Jakunzi can shake up again. The chicas it was technical aspects. Isma, thank you very much for a good job actually that you handle from the technical side of things there. It is very easy okwebaza abasigadde bonna ne weerabira omuntu abatambuza ebyuma no making sure nti we are all connected. Share Ustad Zaid, thank you very much okutuleetera n'omu Nigeria omugenyi. I was hoping that we could actually explore more ebigambo arabise naye bituuse ne bimuggwako. Martin, so
yes, come on.
Keep it short and sweet.
Yes, obuntu buli busatu genda bwogerako mu bumpimpi abasinga bwe beesibye.
Sorry Martin Ngabojja, please Stella Wanderema, you are new here. I've never seen you on here. I'm sure you've been following the conversation. I'll give you a chance to just say something about today's conversation. I always like to see the new people that have joined us. Thank you to the usual people and thank you very much to the new people. Keep the conversation coming. Martin Sebo, obuntu bwobusatu.
Yes, akasooka ke kakalica. Omwana ono naye Harry yennyini kirabika ekyamututte nti teyasomesebwa kalica yaabwe tamanyi na the importance of the family ties of the royal family. Kyenabagambye nti abaana bano bo tubatadde mu nsi bali mu nsi yaabwe ffe gye tutategeera naye yaffe tetugitegeera. Kati omuntu bw'ogamba nti kalica twebuze lwaki ba Asians bo abaana baabwe bakyawasaŋŋana olwawo okusanga Asians kati gwe ne bw'oba musiraamu kizibu okuwasa omu Bangladesh ngate mwenna muli basiraamu lwaki nti bamusomesa kalica ye kyekyo omukulu Beka Kiyingi kyabadde ayogerako abaana tetubasomesezza kalica ate twagala bagiremeremu tekijja kusoboka bwe baba nga bali mu nsi yaabwe twabateera come the world of modernity beesanze nga bategeera world of modernity let's leave them bagende ne world of modernity fenaffe tufune engeri just gye tubayambamu batwagala okubasomesa. Ekirala kyenja okwogerako era abakulu kye baayogeddeko kyekya religion. Buli avaayo owulira agamba obusiraamu butugamba butya obusiraamu butugamba kino. Ffe abaana abasiraamu, I'm sorry to tell you this, I'm a Christian, tugwa mu mukwano n'abaana abasiraamu nga tusaagana busaazi out of joke n'omugamba nti owaayo wasadde Magharibi n'aga ki kyoyogerako nga abaana bakuze eddiini tebagimanyi twesanzeeyo nga naffe bye tuliko byaffe kati ate ntuuse ewammwe oŋŋamba oyina okusiramuka nga ne gwoŋŋamba nti nsiramukireko tamanyi busiraamu mutuleke kakati awo banga twesanzeeyo gaffena kubanga omuzadde ava ewaka tasadde subuhi n'akwata ekisumuluzo ky'emmotoka n'agenda n'asiibayo nga tasiibye na mwana n'omwana tasadde n'akomawo ne Isha n'atagisaala ng'akooye nnyo kati ate omwana
Martin enswala zonna ng'ozimanyi ezo shahadu otulemedde ku ki
nedda nze omukulu Beka Kinja ngase nnyo mu bintu by'okusoma ennaku zino babeerako n'emisomo gyabwe n'enjiwuliriza naye nagenda n'okuva ku kigambo Islam kyennyini bwe kiba nga kitegeeza peace ffenna katubeere newaffe mu Christianity osanga kuba Christians 100 kuliko abategeera obukristu 5 ne mu Islam bwe kiri kitegeeza nti abategeera obuyisiraamu bwe babusomesezza obulungi ne culture bajja kwesangayo era obufumbo bujja
point eyokusatu bwana Martin
esembayo yeyembeera omukyalo oyo gyava okwogerako nti abamu bagwa mu bufumbo because of financial problems okitegeera nabeera ne beesangayo oba kikutteyo ne kikwatayo bwe kituuka ku financial problems kati kyakwatayo nayo n'abazadde tebakyabifaako oba oliwa culture ki as long as you have money kati eyo yensi mwe tutambulira nayo tugikkirize abategeera baba beetegedde bafumbirigano. We are living in the world of modernity naye ebya culture ababisigadde babisigalemu. Jjajja wange for example ke Kasembayo jjajja omukyala yaŋŋamba nti baamulabira jjajja omusajja wange oli yagenda nti tubeesinga ennyo ku families zijja zidizaawo arranged marriages zetwadibya. Jjajja omukyala baamulabira jjajja omwami naye yaŋŋaa kyamutwalira omwaka mulamba okumanyira omusajja obwo obugumiikiriza tebukyaliwo. Tutambula na kigenda. Weebale nnyo ssebo.
Martin weebale nnyo very very much. Weebale nnyo ne conversation yenu ssebo. Ngenda kujja wa Sheikh Kamulege. I just wanted to get Stella Wanderema just because once we get to Sheikh Kamulege we'll just be wrapping up. Stella, please, if you can unmute yourself. Stella Wanderema, I just wanted to, I've seen you are new to the conversation here. I just want to get your feel about today's topic. Stella? Stella, please, if you can unmute yourself. Hi, Stella, are you there? Hello, Stella. Hi, tugende wa Sheikh Kamulege nga betulinda. Stella, please, if you can be ready. I just wanted to get your own take on today's topic. Here we have an open conversation. Every topic is a topic that we discuss. Sheikh Kamulege asebo. Ojira ku dakiika yarara salama always. Dakiika twaziise muddo obudde bwe tw'abantu.
Nange ebintu bikukwata ne bikubuzaako bwongo.
Naam, barakallahu fikum. Keeping it short tusobole okuba tukanyigamu ne betusiibira abantu. Ndaba ne Sheikh Sulaiman naye akomyewo.
Alayhi wasallama wa ba'du. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Webale kuweereza.
Amin.
N'abateesiteesi bonna Ismaila Mundabiro mugambe nti mutumidde nnyo yeebale kubeera nga atereeza ebyuma.
Amin.
Ekigambo kya intermarriage kyalibadde kirungi senga tekiriimu bizibu. Nze ebbanga lye mmaze wano mu UK ndabye ebizibu bya intermarriage nga nagenda okukakana nga mukwano yali my best friend atukoze ekigambo kyotalabanga n'okutuusa ku ssaawa ya leero yabula. Yabasa omukyala Munnayuganda yagadde kukuwako just yali bali babiri, omu Munnigeria omu Munnagana, naye bakola ekintu kye kimu abalinga bava mu famire ki nti bawasa abakyala Bannayuganda. Omunnigeria nze kennyini kamwakoogera nze namulabira omuwala gwakola ki gwawasa naye bwe baafuna misunderstanding maama w'omulenzi yennyini yagula tikiti z'abaana ne mutabani we ne barenyinga travel nga maama w'abaana takoze eki tamanyi olw'okuba baafunye misunderstanding. Omwami w'omulenzi yamugamba nti abo abakazi b'e Uganda bajja kutwalako abaana togenda kuddayo balabako. Kati ye kye yakola kugulira abazzukulu be ticket n'abasendike Nigeria. Now it's 15 years. No communication, nothing. Omuwala yagezaako agenzeeko mu police agenze mu kooti akoze atya, he end up with nothing. Omusango gukyaliyo bakyagezaako okubanoonya, they haven't what? Kuba babiyingiza mu Interpol, whatever. That happened to my friend Ganania, naye ye omulenzi yakomawo abaana n'abalekayo. Era n'amugamba nti okuva lwasalawo okwawukana nange kyategeeza nti twawukanye n'abaana nina okubalabirira kuba baana bange si babo. Ababo ojja kubazaala mu musajja gwe wasalawo okukola ki? Ogenda naye, nze abange nina okubeera nabo. That was the end of the story. Kati mudde ngamba nti intermarriage teyali baddembi naye obwebizibu ebikola ki? Ebisangibwamu.
So obanga azzeeyo ng'ogamba nti mbi kubanga wogamba nti teyali baddembi naye olw'ebizibu ebisangibwamu tubanga abazzeeyo era.
Obanga azzeeyo eri naye Kasim, buli bw'okola intermarriage nga tomanyi kimunno kikyali. Munno kikyali era muna endinga mutya. For example, wano kakati abaana baffe bafumbirwa abazungu, bafumbirwa abajamaika, bafumbiddwa everywhere. Naye nze kyembagamba kiri kimu nti as long as nti culture gy'ogenzeemu ogitegeera nga Kiyingi bwe yagambye nti bwe banagamba nti omwana gwe tusooka okuzaala ffe tumulya buli n'okikkiriza kahet sina mutawaana. Naye bw'ogendayo nga tokimanyi bw'ojja kuzaala omwana ng'omanyi nti mwana wo kyokka bakwate omwana bamutwale bagambe nti fa omwana waffe bwe tusooka okuzaala mu nnyumba muno tulya muki? Tulya muliye. What are you going to do?
Naam.
Owulidde? Nze yegundi yange bwentyo bwendaba ekikulu ennyo bw'agenda okufumbirwayo oba bw'agenda okuwasaayo sooka omanye biki kali kyagyogendamu efaanana etya.
Sheikh nkwesonyiye bwesonyiye mukadde wange lwakadde
ndaba mukama wange oyo awanisa omukono.
Leka nkomyewo Sheikh Sulaiman, and we will be wrapping up with you Sheikh Sulaiman. It would have been good to hear from other communities. Sometimes things that were pressed upon us. Naddala ng'ogenda okuwasa omukyotara bali bagamba nti ogenza okuwasa omukyotara bali basiika ne caayi. Era bw'omuwasiza bw'oti ekidomola kya butto kirina okubeerawo. Kairi ajja kujja nga ye okuyiiya kwe ne bwatuuka ng'emmere tewali awaka nga waliwo bogoya oba ndiizi, ajja kukwata ndiizi amutuuze mu butto ogende okulaba nga mufunye ekyokulya. Bali basiika ne caayi. These are all perceptions ezijja. Sheikh Sulaiman, genda mu maaso. We are wrapping up with you. In 4 minutes we should be closing the program.
Sebo webale mukama wange kunziriza kazindaalo. Naye kigambo kya mukadde wange Kamlegera. Ensonga gyayogedde ntuufu naye ndowooza
please keep it in English. Tulina bamutamanyi Luganda.
Yeah, I would just want to base my comment on the previous speaker, Sheikh Kamlegera, about the example, the illustration he used, maybe not to give credence to intermarriage. And I think that probably is based on I would say, it's a bit of a narrow definition of intermarriage. I don't think intermarriage is all about someone from one country to another. We might all be, for example, think about, in Uganda, we have different races, people of different color complexion, but still we have what we call intermarriage. We might have intermarriage of people from the south, with those of the north, east and west. That is another form of intermarriage. So if that is the case, and if that is the broader meaning and definition of intermarriage, then it goes back to the fundamental question of what is that is common? What common premise do the two parties share? If a strong premise that the two parties share, then I cannot see how color and difference in language can actually be a factor that undermines the success of marriage. So, and then we have to go back to ask ourselves the question, why do I choose to marry this person? Very many speakers and contributors have mentioned love being blind, and that is very common. Okay, actually listening comes last when we have got into problem. But if someone took time to reflect and ask the right questions, then you can actually find the right spouse the lifelong partner, irrespective of where they come from. And this is where, you know, Martin mentioned about, you know, he challenged the community, whereas he knows of any Ugandan who can dare marry from the Bangladesh community. Probably the statistics are not there, but we do know very well that also within those communities, some other communities, marriage is actually, there is an element of forced marriage, so much so that if those people wanted to get out, you know, to expand on the culture, to enrich the culture. I don't want to call it breaking the culture, but to enrich the culture and marry from out, you know, into other cultures, they feel under so much pressure they cannot do, you know, accept it. So the whole idea is not because they have a culture. Some of the cultures are enforced. Some of the cultures are based, as I mentioned before, to psychological biases. We think we have this stereotype. These people are like this. These people are like this. And I don't find any premise for, you know, Greg, who mentioned that, well, we are black. We are meant for black. God had a reason why he created us black. You shouldn't marry into black communities. Of course, that has no basis at all, not within any Christian or Jew, any form of, you know, well-known religion. So therefore, I would say that I don't think, I'm not against marrying outside the culture, because by the end of the day, honest, good values of modesty, decency, honesty, trustworthiness have no culture. They're not defined by one nationality or by one community, you know, of people. These are cross, you know, community, cross, you know, societal values. It's a question of finding someone with whom you can agree. If the person has to be the right one, you know, why not? And we really have to be, we need to break the barrier. Now, when Martin mentions that we haven't taught the children, of course we do try, and he knows very well that, of course, the pressure is so much, even in the environment where children are growing. But the one realistic, one fact we all know, that when people reach in their 40s and 50s and try to look back, they realize actually there were so many things that I was being told that I neglected, but they were the right things. So it's not always easy to get the youngsters to appreciate, you know, and conform to the whatever saying. But at the same time, I am of the view that when we get the right person, we've got to enrich our cultures as long as they are based on sound values, ring-fenced, you know, with the element of faith being ring-fenced. That cannot be compromised at all.
Thank you very much, Chef Sulaiman. Thank you. Absolutely, we are running. We are overrunning. But it looks like Sarah is burning, and I'll just let her. Sarah, you have 30 seconds. But before that, a message from Facebook here from Hadi, who says, Salaam alaikum. I'm having a hard time with my fiance's family because he's Somali and I am Ugandan. They are so tribalistic. They want him to marry from his tribe, and they are doing everything possible for our nikah not to take place. But I love my man and he loves me too. I pray to Allah that love wins, inshallah. Sarah, 30 seconds, please, so that we wrap this up. Ajat Sarah.
Yes, 30 seconds. Thank you, everyone. When I brought in my motion, I wanted to wake up the floor, which successfully I did. But concluding, okay, where the person, which country somebody comes from, is not an issue. But in Sigalayo Nechirinti, family should come first, and there must be family values, which must be ring-fenced, which is a no compromise to go beyond those family values. Nga akati inge waffe edini, that is a family value. We cannot go beyond that. And I would ask everybody to look into themselves to find out who they are, and if it's not family value, have they got their own value to ring fence, not to compromise on those. If you are looking for a partner, that's the only way you will be respected.
Thank you very much. And that is a good way actually for us to wrap up this very interesting evening. This is a conversation actually that could go on for another 1 hour, but we are out of time. Sincere apologies. We've gone 18 minutes over our time simply because we started slightly late but also importantly because there were so many hands that we needed to get out of the way. Interesting aspects in the chat room. People need to upgrade their mindset, says Namba Dwamuna, and see good in people, not just prejudging them. Abdul Qadir Kawuya, Sheikh said spot on Sheikh Sulaiman. Zamzam Mwanga says, me, there are some cultures that I wouldn't want to marry in, not because I'm racist, but because of their ways. And she goes on, I think, to say which cultures. After she's been asked, she says, well, imagine you are all eating on one plate, then someone sneezes and uses their hands and then comes back to the plate. Not a good way to end the conversation. Just to quickly tell you that tomorrow, inshallah, on Wednesday, they will be bridging the gap on 75W Radio at 7 p.m. The topic they are touching is what is love. Probably it will have something to do with this Meghan and Harry, probably as a backdrop to that conversation. So the conversation might continue there. But also importantly, Sheikh Nkata Sulaiman Nkata Ismail Nkata, as usual, will be on with Riyadh Salihin on Umma Connected all the time from 1:30 as usual, inshallah. Then on Thursday, we are planning next Thursday, not this Thursday, but next Thursday on Umma Connect, we are getting a senior lawyer, a senior solicitor, an immigration lawyer who will be coming in to answer your questions. So prepare in case you have any issues related to immigration, your status, marriage, family reunion, blah, blah. Have all these questions ready. That will be Thursday, the other week, not this week, inshallah. But Thursday, as usual, we'll have Umma Connected with the history of Muslim education. Then Friday, we cross to UMC with the Quran. Saturday and Sunday, wrapping it up with Sheikh Sekade, as usual, on Sunday afternoon. That's it from me and from the team. Thank you very much. We've been live on 75W Radio as well as Umma Connect via Zoom and YouTube. I'm Kasim Kayira, and I can only wish you a very good night. Hope to see you next week, inshallah. Thank you very much for keeping this conversation. It's very interesting whenever we hear from you. Just to remind you that when you tune in here, be ready. I'll just come to you, click onto you, and get you to talk. I was trying to get Stella, who is a new guest on to here, but it looks like we are unable to get her. But probably next week, inshallah, we'll have a different conversation that we can pick up on. Thank you very much for making this a very, very wonderful program. And I can only wish you a very good night. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and keep us alive till next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Allahi wa barakatuh.